as you all know, Nina Turner recently became the president of Our Revolution, which to me was just excellent news because I don't think there's anybody that deserves that job more so than Nina Turner. So, as we would have expected, this generated a ton of press coverage, and Nina Turner gave a bunch of different interviews to different publications. One of them was The Nation, and she was interviewed by Collier Meyerson. Now, this interview prompted a Democratic strategist named Peter Rosenstein to write this article for the Huffington Post titled, Nina Turner, Our Revolution President, From Democrat to Irrational. Now, judging by the title alone, you know that this isn't going to be an attack based on policy substance. It's just a political hatchet job. So, why does this individual think that Nina Turner, of all people, is irrational? Well, he argues upon taking over as president of Our Revolution, Bernie Sanders' organization, Nina Turner was interviewed by Collier Meyerson and asked, how will Our Revolution relate to the DNC, the DCCC, the DSCC, that kind of establishment that so many activists and politicians, including you, have frequently criticized? Her response was, I don't think it is our job nor our obligation to fit in. It's their job to fit in with us. That mirrors how Senator Bernie Sanders has handled his entire political career. It is also why he has few real accomplishments to his name after over 40 years in office, which is bullshit, but nonetheless, he continues by saying, it may behoove Ms. Turner to take a few moments on this July 4th to reread our Constitution and realize that to make progress on her goals, that may require some compromise. That is how the Founding Fathers set up our government. Meyerson went on to ask, and how will Our Revolution relate to progressives within government who didn't back Bernie, like Sherrod Brown and Tammy Baldwin, if they go on to seek re-election? Her response is an indication of what is clearly self-destructive about both Nina Turner and Our Revolution. She said about these two successful and respected progressives, if they want Our Revolution's endorsement, they will seek it like everybody else, and so they gotta start with the local affiliates, and if the local affiliates say that this is the person that we want to back, then there it is. There it is. So Our Revolution isn't about supporting progressives or helping people learn how the system works so they can move forward progressive change. Rather, it is about catering to groups of local activists, often self-indulgent, to the point of taking action that actually hurts the causes they believe in. To bring about change, one has to understand the system. Understanding how Congress works, like it or not, when it comes to Congress, there are only two parties, Democrat and Republican. If you don't work to support one of them, you are helping the other. We saw that in the last presidential election, and we saw it in 2000 when we ended up with George W. Bush. One must wonder what turned Nina Turner from a rational Democrat who won her legislative seat running as a Democrat in Ohio to the irrational person she appears to be today. One is forced to assume what Miss Turner is now doing is more self-aggrandizement and less about getting anything done. I met Nina Turner once at a Ready for Hillary event in New York City. She spoke passionately about Hillary and why she would make a great president. She is a good speaker and excited her audience. The next time I had heard of her, she had gone through some personal epiphany and became a rabid anti-Hillary Sanders supporter. It might be in the Clinton campaign, she would have been one of thousands, and with the Sanders campaign, she was special. So to me, that article is insufferable, and when it comes to some of the more bolder claims that this so-called strategist is making, I mean, he's talking a lot here. He's saying, one, that Nina Turner is irrational, that she's an opportunist, she only endorsed Bernie Sanders instead of Hillary Clinton so that way she would stand out more and it would bolster her own career. He's saying that she's not politically astute, and that she's unreasonable and unwilling to compromise. And in a portion I didn't read to you, he even implies that her decision to have Our Revolution endorse all progressives, including Green Party and independent political candidates, is deceptive, since Our Revolution's donors are supporting an organization that's backing candidates that won't win. And finally, he criticized the grassroots and said that they are sometimes a little bit self-indulgent. I mean, has there ever been a more arrogant and smugly written article ever? Because I don't know if I've read one before. He's basically raking Nina Turner over the coals and basically saying she's a piece of shit because he disagrees with her strategically. Well, just because you disagree with her doesn't mean that you're better than Nina Turner. In fact, I agree with Nina Turner, and just because you and I are in disagreement doesn't mean that you're better than me. You may be a political strategist, you may be an elite, but that doesn't make you better because your opinion differs from us. In fact, if anything, our opinion should hold more weight because grassroots activism is where the heart of the Democratic Party really is, and we are more in tune with ordinary Americans. You are in tune with the elites in Washington, D.C., which is why you don't know what you're talking about, and you have your head up the asses of people like Hillary Clinton. Now, he's implying here that Nina Turner, she is such a horrible person because she doesn't want to compromise, and she's backing candidates that aren't Democrats, and she's dividing progressives and helping Republicans, and yada, yada, yada. So if you're a strategist, then riddle me this. Wouldn't you say that it's more strategically bereft for the party to abandon a huge swath of voters? And now you're leaving that portion of the electorate, almost half of the Democratic Party, open for someone like the Green Party or the People's Party or some other new party to swoop in and pick up those voters. That is something that I would like to call strategic incompetence, but you would already know this if you're a Democratic Party strategist, right? And also, he talks about compromise and Nina Turner's unwillingness to compromise. And although that word itself isn't inherently dirty, when Democrats say it, it's a bad word. And this is because when Democrats talk about compromise, they're not really talking about compromise in the actual definition sense of the word. They're talking about rolling over and dying and giving the Republicans everything that they want. So we often hear about how Bill Clinton, he compromised with Republicans in the 90s, and by compromise, he just signed their Republican welfare into law. We talk about how Barack Obama compromised with Republicans with the Affordable Care Act when he just gave them the policy that they petitioned for that was endorsed by the Heritage Foundation in the 90s. So, Democrats don't know how to compromise. They only know how to roll over and die. And furthermore, one thing that you need to get through your thick skull and everyone else in Washington, D.C. needs to realize, maybe you could tell them since you're a strategist, is that we don't have to compromise because our issues, the issues we are championing, have majoritarian support. That means that a majority of the country supports the ideas that we are talking about. Single-payer healthcare, raising the minimum wage, ending U.S. imperialism. We are the ones with the winning argument, and the American people back us. We don't have to compromise on that. Because if you're compromising on something that the American people doesn't want, you're only giving in to large multinational corporations who are buying off Republicans and Democrats. So why would we compromise with them? That's not going to happen. If you think we're unreasonable for our unwillingness to compromise, then too bad. We are going to be a pain in the ass of the Democratic Party, and if you don't like that, then that's too bad. Maybe Democrats shouldn't have been so corrupt that they lost nearly 1,000 seats in legislatures across the country. So, since you guys are incompetent, now it's our turn to take over the party and run Washington, D.C. and do it our way. So you can think Nina Turner is irrational for that, but unfortunately for you, Nina Turner is a populist with a winning message and a winning strategy. You're not a very good strategist if you think that what she's doing is bad for the party, because if anything, she's trying to push the party to the left. And if they want to win, this is what they've got to do. So you can think she's an irrational person. You can smear her. It doesn't matter. Nina Turner will be on the right side of history.
Support this podcast by joining the independent progressive media revolution today at humanistreport.com.